Football from Yard, the People's Channel.
Blessings once more, Football from Yard Massive. The Reggae Boys played their first match under the guidance of new head coach Jaime Hallgrimsson. Hallgrimsson's first test was in New Jersey at the Redbulls Arena, where Jamaica went up against football giants Argentina, led by the living legend Lionel Messi. Jamaica fell by a 3-0 margin, courtesy of an opener from Julian Alvarez and a second-half double from Lionel Messi. The matchday squad available to the coach varied from the one that was initially released by the JFF a few weeks ago. Upon accepting the job, Hallgrimsson's first order of business was to reinstate goalkeeper Andre Blake after his exclusion by the JFF. Joel Latibadir, Greg Lay, and Kevin Stewart were all unavailable due to injury. Jonathan Russell didn't have the requisite documentation to play for Jamaica, and Richard King's travel documentation wasn't processed quickly enough. In response to the withdrawals, central defender Curtis Tilt, right back Malik Howell, and left back Ricardo Thomas were called in to bolster the squad. Hallgrimsson's inaugural lineup included a lot of familiar faces. Captain Andre Blake started in goal. Damian Lowe and Adrian Mariappa occupied the central defense. Javane Brown was at right back, and Omari Bell on the left. Ravel Morrison and Daniel Johnson orchestrated proceedings in the centre of the park, while Leon Bailey and Bobby Reid dealt with the flanks. Shamar Nicholson and Michael Antonio led the forward line. The players put up a strong fight on the night, but the gap in the quality between the two teams was apparent from the first whistle. Argentina had the majority of possession in the first half, but was only able to get one shot into the back of the net when Julian Alvarez scored in the 13th minute. The Reggae Boys improved in the last 8 minutes of the first half as they attempted to play in a more composed manner. The improved play continued in the second half, where the team appeared to be heading to a 1-0 defeat on the night, but during the last 5 minutes of the encounter, the brilliance of Lionel Messi was on display. In the 86th minute, he beat Andre Blake after some nifty combinations on the edge of the box, and then followed up in the 89th minute, placing a free kick between Blake and his post. The players displayed a good fighting spirit, even if they were unable to match the level of the Argentinians. While there were some tactical reasons that contributed to the below-average showings, the struggles were mostly due to the disparity in quality between the two teams. Goalkeeper Andre Blake saw much more action than his counterpart and was called upon to make a few saves. He probably could have done better on one of the goals, but as usual looked stable in the goalkeeping department. Blake's distribution was mixed and improved late in the first half. Initially he was booting the ball upfield as the Argentinians pressed, but eventually did a better job of passing short, and his defenders and midfielders did a better job of making themselves available. He gets a score of 6. Damian Lowe had some bright moments defending, but also had a few lapses. He was dismissed a little too easily on the first goal, and probably could have reacted a bit quicker on the second. Lowe, who has a reputation for being a bit too exuberant when tackling, seems to be trying to compensate for that, and is occasionally being too timid when approaching the attacker, and is getting caught flat-footed. While he's clearly making a concerted effort to rein in the rough challenges, he will have to keep working towards finding the appropriate balance. He gets a score of 5. Adrian Mariappa displayed his usual fight and commitment to the Jamaican jersey. With that said, he could have been a bit more composed on the night. Maps fought hard to recover on a number of occasions, but some of those recoveries were because he was out of position initially. Tactically, he and Omari Bell have a very good understanding on the left side of the defense. Mariappa had a sloppy foul on Lionel Messi that led to a free kick and the final goal. He gets a score of 5. Javane Brown started off a bit shaky, but was better as the game went on. Brown displayed his usual aggression, making a number of timely challenges, but he also continued the trend of overplaying the ball and being caught upfield. Brown's defensive issues were compounded by the lack of support he received from his midfield. He was being overworked and had to leave the field late in the second half due to injury. Brown improved his composure after initially looking panicky in possession. He gets a score of 5. Omari Bell was his usual self. He was steady for the majority of the game and had a couple unforced errors. Defensively, he was solid throughout the match and rarely out of position. Bell combined well with his winger to maintain the defensive integrity on the left side. There were a couple mistakes in possession, but overall Bell looked more composed than most of the players on the night. As usual, he gets a score of 6. Daniel Johnson was a little too pedestrian for a match that required a high level of intensity. In possession, Johnson wasn't showing for the ball quickly or moving much besides a shuffle here and there. And when he did get possession, he turned over the ball far too many times. On the defensive side, Johnson was also a half step too slow to react and didn't display the kind of urgency required to play against a team like Argentina. The coach's tactical setup didn't do Johnson any favors, but he also didn't do himself any. He gets a score of 4. Ravel Morrison was absent for large stretches of the match until he started dropping deeper in the second half. His movement off the ball wasn't what it needed to be, which often saw him being late to receive a pass or challenge his opponent. A couple of those challenges were rash and could have had more severe consequences if it was an official match. As with his partner in central midfield, the player composition and tactical setup didn't provide him with the best platform for success. He gets a score of 5. Bobby Reid gave a lot of effort on the night. Defensively, he was above average and combined well with Amari Bell to limit Argentina's effectiveness on the left flank. His attacking output was fairly modest as he didn't have the pace, ingenuity, or support from his teammates to make any substantial strides in Argentina's half of the field. He gets a score of 5. Leon Bailey was underwhelming on the night. His creativity was evident, but too often it was combined with a poor end product. With a little simplicity, Bailey would likely improve his impact substantially. On the defensive end, Bailey had a few good moments pressing, but was a little lackadaisical when the team was defending deep. If the coach continues with the formation used on the night, Bailey may benefit from playing just off the main striker, where he isn't as burdened on the defensive end. He gets a score of 4. Shamar Nicholson had one of his more uninspiring matches for Jamaica. He looked slouchy and generally off the pace of the game. For the most part, he was too far away from his strike partner on both the defensive and attacking end, disrupting the fluidity of the team. On the couple of occasions Nicholson did receive the ball in dangerous positions, he was sloppy in possession, and attacks that should have led to opportunities amounted to naught. He gets a score of 4. Michail Antonio looked like he was ready for the fight and wasn't overawed because of the reputation of the opposition. He was largely an isolated figure and only had a few occasions to try to use his pace and power against the opposition. Antonio was starved for service, and when he did get the ball, he wasn't very clean in possession. On the defensive end, he did a good job of pressing and rotating with the other attacking players. He gets a score of 5. There really was no surprise about the result or the struggles of the team against such a high caliber opponent. Coach Hallgrímsson will know that the journey has just started. Having been a part of Iceland's historic run in the European Championship and then leading them to a World Cup, Hallgrímsson will understand better than most that the road of getting to a World Cup is a long one and entails multiple phases. It is likely that he will be in the evaluation phase for a while as he develops the appropriate system for the player pool. Once that process concludes, it will be easier to evaluate his performance and his impact on the team. Regardless of Hallgrímsson's coaching ability, the key football stakeholders will need to provide adequate support if the team is going to deepen its connections with the fans and have a successful World Cup qualifying campaign next time around. Respect as always, linkage next time.
That has to be a consistent thing within the national team, just to show that you care and that the people can see it actually when they watch the game on TV, that the players really care. Then I think people will connect to the national team. And then we can do some other things to connect better. But I think first and foremost, just for the players to give it all, then the people will appreciate.